What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to College Football Talk with Peter Burtonette. And it's another day, another big news announcement for the Ohio State Buckeyes as they bring in another key transfer to the team and another one from the University of Alabama. I'll get into who that addition is, but before I do, if you go on to enjoy this video, please feel free to leave a like, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps me out a ton, and turn on those post notifications so you're always up to date, the latest when I post. But Julian Sayin, the quarterback from Alabama, the number one prospect in the 2024 recruiting class, has officially announced his decision to join the Ohio State Buckeyes a couple of days or one day after Caleb Downs did, the All-SEC freshman who had around 100 total tackles for the Crimson Tide this year. And so Ryan Day is making the moves, probably dishing out the money a little bit, NIL money and everything to bring these guys in, but I mean, it's a huge just opportunity for Ohio State. They've been definitely, the question that arises from this, because they've been the champions of the offseason so far, I don't think there's really another team that comes close in terms of the additions that they've made and the guys who are coming back as well. Made a video about that more previously. In this one, though, I kind of want to talk about just this whole idea of winning the offseason and how much it really matters. I think something like having so many guys return, and again, I talked about that more in the last video, is huge. You look at a team like the national champions this year, the Michigan Wolverines, had a ton of guys return for this team with a singular focus for winning that national championship. They had beaten Ohio State the last 2 years. They had won the Big Ten championship both of those seasons, and they had made the playoff, but they had fallen short of even reaching the championship game. And so then they go out there, they bring these guys all back, and they have the collective group. And I think that's the one area where I'm a little concerned about Ohio State. Obviously, all of the guys who are coming back have that one goal in mind. They are going for, first of all, beating Michigan, winning the Big Ten, and getting to the national championship game and winning that as well. That is the goal for this team. But when you bring in a lot of new guys, it's important to consider how that meshes together, because there's a lot of personalities, egos, expectations, just a lot of different moving parts and pieces that you have to fit together. And so it'll be interesting to see how Ryan Day and his staff fit those pieces together. I mean, you look at some cohesion between, the Alabama guys who are coming in. Seth McLaughlin, the center, is also one of those guys coming in from Tuscaloosa. But I think it's a major positive. I think it is something to keep an eye on, though, how those players mesh together. And I think it's very exciting times for Ohio State football, but you have to win the games on the field, and I think that is the thing that still has yet to be done. I think the one move that I've questioned a little bit is Bill O'Brien. He's had kind of hot and cold periods as a coordinator. Obviously, as a head coach, had his struggles in the NFL. Had a couple good seasons, I think, with the Texans, but overall, somewhat disappointed. And as a coordinator, he's done a fair job. He's coached under both Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. But I believe I saw somewhere, and I want to verify this before I include this, that he never won a championship, either Super Bowl or a national championship, when he was on those staffs. But I'll have to double check that and make sure that I get that right. So that's certainly an intriguing piece of all of this, bringing in Bill O'Brien. He has a ton of experience, but can he get this offense to an even higher level? I think bringing in a guy like Sayin, probably to push Will Howard, the Kansas State transfer, and also competing with Air Nolan, the incoming freshman. And so it's going to be interesting to see how these Buckeyes do. I would imagine probably only one, maybe two of these quarterbacks stay. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Howard stays. I mean, it'd be weird to do a double transfer. It's not unheard of in the same offseason. I could see him sticking around regardless of whether he wins the job or not. But that'll be something to keep an eye on, what Will Howard does in the coming days and weeks. But I think probably between the two of Sayin and Nolan, one of those guys will stay at Ohio State and the other one will make a move elsewhere to a place where he has a better opportunity. But it's possible maybe Nolan wants to, Nolan or Sayin, whoever's able to win the job, whoever loses the job, wants to stay around and try to just grow and develop. That's not very common, especially for quarterbacks in today's transfer portal era, but it isn't impossible. So I think the Buckeyes defense is probably the strongest thing. I think they have so many guys that are coming back and making an addition like Caleb Downs. I mean, probably the top or one of the top safeties in college football this year, especially just as a true freshman. So there's a lot to keep an eye on. One other additional note, and I know this is getting a very small portion in this video, but Arizona is keeping Noah Fifita, and I think I saw maybe his top target or one other player. I'll pop up that information because it's escaping me right now. But that's big news for the Wildcats. Fifita had an incredible season. Obviously, losing head coach Jed Fish is a tough pill to swallow, but I think Arizona is still in good hands with Fifita, who had a phenomenal freshman season at quarterback. So keep an eye on the Wildcats still in that Big 12. But again, the big question here is whether Ohio State can actually win on the field. I think the collective just togetherness of this team will be huge, but there will be pieces coming in that'll have to be meshed into that. I mean, the running back Quinshon Judkins as well, having to probably split carries a little bit with Travion Henderson in the backfield. So that'll also be something to keep an eye on with this team. I'm certainly not ready to declare that this Buckeyes team is going to win the national championship. I think this makes them potentially even more of a favorite. And also, I think, Sayin brings a lot of hype because he's a quarterback and he's the top-ranked quarterback and all that. But I think the addition of Downs is honestly a bigger one because there's a possibility that Sayin doesn't even start this year. Maybe he comes in later, maybe he does start right away. But either way, I think the addition of Downs is more of one that will probably be an immediate plug-in and will maybe potentially make a bigger impact, especially on the success of this team. If Sayin does end up starting, that'll be an opportunity for him to showcase his skill set. But that certainly will be a storyline of the offseason, the quarterback battle, and who stays and who goes for Ohio State. But overall, they still have to go out there and win the big games on the football field. And like I've talked about before, that's the thing that Ryan Day has struggled with. So I think this bumps them maybe to favorite status. I think it'll be tough to put them past Georgia. Right now, it's really looking like Georgia is still the favorite just because, they have won 2 national championships in the last 3 years. I think Michigan, in terms of the odds makers and everything, have not been looked at too favorably because of how much they're losing, but I think they're returning a lot next year too, and they're certainly going to be in the race. You look at a team like Oregon, Dan Lanning staying there, coming into the Big Ten. We'll have to see how they adjust to the play style, especially when they play against some of those highly defensive Big Ten West schools, and how they fare if they just kind of run the table and dominate those teams, or if they kind of, the defenses are able to scheme well against the Oregon attack, which another thing that I haven't talked about as much, I mentioned in one video when Dylan Raiola announced that he was going to flip to Nebraska, is Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore, who wins the starting quarterback job in Eugene. I would imagine Gabriel is slightly favored, but I mean, Dante Moore had a really good season at UCLA this year and certainly has a chance to win that job. So that's kind of a rundown of the latest of what's happened. I know this has focused a lot on Ohio State, but I think there's no debate as to who's won the offseason. It's just a matter of if they can actually do it on the field, because they still have lost the last 3 straight to Michigan and have yet to win a college football playoff game since Ryan Day won in his second season in 2020. But that's it for this video of College Football Talk. Again, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and leave a like on this video. But that's it for this episode of College Football Talk. I'm your host, Peter Burnett, signing out. Peace.